On today's segment, we're going to chat all things New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. We've got a big preview for you all. So before we get into everything, make sure you leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. We're also available on YouTube, so subscribe to us at youtube.com/attacking third and get all the NWSL specific content, previews, recaps, interviews, all right here with A3. The NWSL season starts on March 25th. It's coming up quick, and you can watch all the games on Paramount Plus. And we are doing a team preview for every single club, both a podcast and on YouTube. So make sure you tell your friends, you tell your family, you tell your mom's dog, you tell your cousins, cat, you tell your neighbors, your old neighbor that left, maybe the person who went away to college and you don't see them really much anymore. Tell everybody that the NWSL is coming back and that Sandra and Lisa are chatting about all the teams. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm good this morning, Sandra. It's good to be here. I love hearing you list off random people that everyone should tell because, hey, tell everyone if you didn't get the gist yet. It's good to be here, ready for the weekend, to be honest. I'm going to put that out there. It's been a week. It has been a week, but I'm ready to, I don't know, watch some college basketball this week.
You're ready for some March Madness. You're actually not ready for things to slow down. You're ready for things to get even more accelerated. What's wrong with you?
I'm so excited about that. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, we are jazzed about all these previews that we're doing. We're kind of cruising down the list. We're going at them a bit alphabetical. So really excited to talk about Gotham this morning, kind of everything that these teams have in front of them. It's exciting, right? Doing all these previews really gets me excited for the year and everything that is to come because it is around the corner, March 25th on Paramount Plus. You know where you can find me that weekend, 24th or 25th and 26th. I will be parked on my couch watching all these games. I'm really excited about it because then we get to do, like with the start of the season, of course, we get to do all these previews, but then you and I get to do game previews and game recaps. And that's something that I do really miss.
I know. It's like part of you get so used to your routine after a while, and then like you get disrupted a little bit, and it's important to have an off season. We deserve an off season too. And yet we just go all year round chatting all things soccer. But you listen, you like it. We love it. Let's chat a little bit about New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. And let's do a preview for them. Let's start with a little bit of an overview. Let's talk about how they navigated their offseason a bit. They're going to be led this year by new head coach Juan Carlos Amorós. It's his first year with the club. They hired him out of Houston. He was the interim head coach for the Dash sort of around June, but got hired but didn't really join the team until really that second half stretch of the season. And the team had a really impressive run under his tenure there. 9 games undefeated out of the 12 games. And you know what? Gotham needed a coach of their own, and they said to take a look at this head coaching position. They also had an interim at the time, so no more Hugh Menzies, and they ended up settling in on Juan Carlos Amorós. So they also continue to go ahead and flesh out the technical staff as well, because they also had to bid farewell to some assistants on the coaching staff. So they've got Jen Lawler, Sean Harris, Akalakani, and they previously had ties to Amorós. They were with him while at Tottenham. So, you get a new coach in, and they want to bring in some folks that have, they're familiar with it, if they worked with before. So curious to see where this coaching staff is going to take Gotham, because it can only be up, right? From here? Question mark? I don't know, because they finished in last place in 2022. 4-1-17, their overall record, Lisa.
Oh God, it was really rough last year. Gotham broke some records, and not the records you want to break. They had a 12-game losing streak, a 5-game scoreless streak. It was tough for them. I'm going to say on and off the pitch, with coaching changes happening and understanding. I mean, after Scott Parkinson left in the middle of the season last year, essentially, and Hugh Menzies came in, Hugh Menzies did try to change some things up. I mean, former Jamaican women's national team coach, definitely had a lot of good experience, but it was always a temporary position for Menzies and for the players. And I think that's a really difficult position to put a team in at that point in the season, when you know that this coach isn't going to be here next year. So it's you have a hard time digging and finding that motivation inside yourself as a player. I think that's something that Gotham struggled with last year, as well as like a slew of a million other issues that they went through. It was really tough. It was tough to watch. I know we got a lot of fans that joined us live on YouTube and listened to these episodes that were going to Gotham games at Red Bull Arena, and we'd try to talk about it here. And it was like, it's just, they can't string any passes together. It was rough. I mean, finishing last in the league, they can only go up from here.
That's why maybe I posed the question too early. I don't know. We'll see. It was tough to watch, tough to cover at times, but I think something good that really came out of that was a lot of the player perspective as well. They never really seemed too low or too out of it in terms of their morale and what we heard coming out of post games or things like that. So we were really curious how this franchise was going to navigate their off season. Who were they going to retain, from that very long 2022 season? Who were they going to go out and get? How were they going to, operate within the draft when that came up? Because heading into the offseason, Houston had, or excuse me, North Carolina, or oh my God, Jesus,
Gotham.
let's try this again. Gotham FC had the number 1 pick going into the draft. And we were like, who are they going to take? That is a very valuable selection. So they did some things in the draft. They did some things in the offseason. They did some things during the free agency period. They really kicked things off in the first ever free agency period. So we gave them an offseason grade of an A. So not an A plus. Only one team got that. We gave that to Kansas City, but we gave Gotham an A. So let's talk a little bit about how they navigated the offseason. They made some additions. They got some important pieces, I think, for this team in 2023. Probably the biggest of those is the addition of Lynn Williams in a trade with Kansas City Current. This was one of a billion trades that Gotham participated in on draft week, let's just say, because some of the moves that they made before draft day kind of set them up to put the wheels in motion to acquire a Lynn Williams, to essentially still make selections in the first round. Like that they went out and got a Lynn Williams on a big draft day trade, like that they went out and got a Yasmin Ryan in the draft week trade. I like that they made a little bit of noise in free agency with Kelly O'Hara. And not only Kelly O'Hara, but making sure that they went out and targeted some areas of need. There were some question marks around the goalkeeping position and how that was going to look. They went out and they got Abby Smith. I really like that pickup as well. And I really like that they made some re-signings out of free agency with somebody like a Taylor Smith or somebody like an Ifeoma Onumanu. When we're looking at some of these kind of breakout or off-season moves, what are some of the ones that stand out for you, or what are even some of the ones that are kind of under the radar for you, Lisa?
I think the big one is, I mean, it starts with the coach, right? It starts at the head. Juan Carlos Amorós. I was really impressed with JCA and what he did at Houston last year, coming into that team and turning their season around. And Houston was a team last year that had 3 different coaches throughout the year as well, right? James Clarkson, Sarah Loudon stepped in as the interim, and then Juan Carlos Amorós. And Juan Carlos Amorós led Houston to their first ever playoff run ever in club history. And I think that getting him at a team like Gotham is going to be really good, really beneficial for them. They had Scott Parkinson and acquired Parkinson in the offseason last year. And everyone thought that was going to be really good. And I don't think it was bad. I just don't think it was a good mix between club players and coach, because I think Scott Parkinson is still a very good coach. And I think the players that are on this team were good last year. Like, they weren't bad. It was just kind of like a bad mix in the pot. So fresh start on all fronts. And I think that's where it starts. But I mean, when you look at this offseason and everything that Gotham did, that's why they got an A, because of every move that they made. And they did it with style too. Remember the announcement of Kelly O'Hara, the free agent, signing with them? It was the first free agent to make a move and to announce that O'Hara would be signing with a new club and leaving Washington Spirit. And they did it in such style, which is like the Gotham signature, right? They've got the red carpet, they've got the flashiness. And I think they did it really tastefully this year with all of the other signings, because then they go and they trade to a top draft pick for a Lynn Williams. And I think that's a great trade-off, because a team like Gotham, they can't be getting top draft picks. I don't think, like getting 3 or 4 top draft picks and expecting to have a turnaround season. You have to get players that have already done it, that are ready in go mode immediately, can score goals for you, can play against tough competition, can bring that professionalism. And that's someone like a Lynn Williams. Like I think for Gotham, you take a Lynn Williams over someone like Michelle Cooper. Now, the long run might be better in getting a Michelle Cooper, who was the number 2 draft pick overall that went to Kansas City and which was traded for Lynn Williams. But I think Cooper is going to do better at Kansas City. And I think Williams is going to do better at Gotham based on the environment. So I think it's a win-win-win in that situation for Cooper, for Gotham, and for Kansas City. I also think getting someone like a Yasmin Ryan on this Gotham roster is huge. This is another player that's ready to go. Yasmin Ryan is a player for Portland that struggled in 2021, getting minutes, getting consistency, really getting time on the pitch. And then as 2022 came along, Ryan really kicked it into another gear and said that she was going to be useful and made herself indispensable to Portland. And by the end of the year, she's starting consecutive games. She's starting the final for Portland and winning a championship with them. And then also you get an Abby Smith from Portland. So 2 championship players on this Gotham team. I think they're in the exact right direction of Gotham to turn this team around. This is what you have to do. You have to acquire big players, players that know how to win, that are ready to come in and work. And not to mention, I mean, this is a New Jersey, New York, Gotham team. Like the location attracts players. I'm going to be really honest about that. Like if you want to play in a big city, you want to go to New York. Like that, it's not like you're going to the middle of nowhere. So I think that helps in a sense as well to some of these players. But I also think like because you are a New York team, you have to be good and you have to be able to win in order to compete with the New York, like, sports scene.
I hear where you're going, but I'm going to pause it because I'm not going to have the Jersey slander. There will be no Jersey, like just glossing over that. It's New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC.
Yeah, whatever.
You said whatever. They're coming here for New York.
I know they play in Jersey too, but like as this Pennsylvanian, whatever about New Jersey. I'm gonna be honest.
You should actually be more. You should be like way more pro Jersey because don't most like Jersey folk like go to Philly? Isn't like their downtown Philadelphia?
Yeah, people that are sometimes from like Cherry Hill area, which is like right over the river from Philadelphia, say they're from Philadelphia and like they're not. You live in a different state. And I love Jersey because I go to the beaches there, but like, no. Dirty Jers.
Come to New York where you can enjoy the beautiful beaches of New Jersey. That's Lisa Roman's pitch to players who want to potentially come to
Oh God, this is so funny. I did not wake up this morning and think I'd be talking about New Jersey.
Well, listen, we are a social studies show now. We're talking about locations and cities and things like that. Listen, I'm with you 100%. I think that you have to have a certain pitch when you're trying to go out and land players, whether it's in free agency or even trying to re-sign them, whether it's somebody like a Lynn Williams or if it's someone, like a Kelly O'Hara, even if it's somebody like an Abby Smith, even if it's not something where it's like geographical location, but what are you pitching players on in terms of what you're building? And if you're coming off of a last place finish, that's got to be a really, really good pitch. You've got to put something together to say, hey, we're doing things here. Come with us. But I mean, I feel like maybe last year can be one of those moments where it was just a bit of a hitting a reset button, I think, for this team. This is a club that went through a rebrand, formerly Sky Blue, wanting to try to get out of, previous narrative around the club that it was not a place where you wanted to go play as a professional. I think the rebrand has helped that a little bit. The fact that they went to the playoffs in 2021 helped that a little bit. But now they had a 2022 that was a more than I think disappointing. I mean, this was a team that wanted to build on that 2021, and they just didn't. And not only did they not build on that, I mean, to finish in last place, I think is really, really disappointing. So cool to see that they went out, made some big signings, that they made some important re-signings.
Huge.
That they navigate. They had a very active draft day. You know, whether it was making the multi-team trade before draft day, and then still shifting their pieces around to walk away with a top first round pick, right? So selecting Jenna Neishwanger out of FSU at number 4, you know, and then still getting someone like Ileana Hawking out of Arizona State. You know, these are young players that maybe they can get in there and try to see who can make an impact. But I mean, with the gains, there are some losses, and when you're looking at Gotham's offseason, it's maybe not so much as it is players, but in terms of just looking at things as a whole, it's coaches and it's players, so it's staff and players. So they had the retirement of Ashton Harris, and that was an immediate need that they needed to go ahead and try to address, and they did that by, I think, getting somebody like an Abby Smith. But they also lost some technical staff, so no Bev Yanez, no Becky Tweed with Gotham FC anymore. Bev Yanez, now the assistant with Racing Louisville. Becky Tweed, an assistant over at Angel City. And when we saw some early off-season moves for this New York side, we saw a lot of staples of this team actually bid farewell. Gotham literally was like, "Hey, thank you for your service. We're going to be moving different directions." And that included players like a Dummy Richardson. That included players like a Nicole Baxter, somebody like a Jennifer Cujo. So players who had been with this team through years when it was perceived as a sort of undesirable, right? And so now moving forward into different directions here and trying to not only get back to the playoffs, but make a big run. So we need to maybe take a look at things as a whole for this roster and who we think might actually make an impact come opening day, and who is going to possibly be on that starting 11 come opening weekend. So we'll see. Stick around with us. We're going to go through all of Gotham's roster by position right after a quick break.
To the ones who said we couldn't, that our dreams were too big.
We have to think big, really change things.
We carry fire in our hearts. So don't doubt us. And don't stand in our way. We are your leaders, your allies, your sisters.
All voices belong.
And we are phenomenal.
Anything is possible.
Women Who Move Mountains. Explore the collection on Paramount Plus.
All right, we're back. Let's take a look at Gotham FC's preseason roster by position. We love going through the preseason rosters because we get to rattle off so many names, over or under 30. Let's find out together. Gotham FC had 4 goalkeepers listed to their preseason roster. Michelle Betos returns, Hensley Handcuff, Abby Smith, Mandy Hott. So we'll see who ends up running up with the regular season in the goalkeeper position. It's usually 2. So to have 4, I'm always like, oh, that's a lot of goalkeepers. We'll see what happens. Defenders, they have 9. Bruinia, Imani Dorsey, Kristen Edmonds, Sabrina Flores, Mandy Freeman, Ellie Jean, Allie Krieger, Neely Martin, Kelly O'Hara, Taylor Smith. We've got midfielders with 10, Ileana Hawking, Naomi Kawasumi, Ali Long, Christy Mewis, Victoria Pickett, Yasmin Ryan, Delaney Sheehan, Taryn Torres, McCall Zerboni, and Sinead Fairley listed as a non-roster invitee. Svava Gumbo's daughter, Jenna Neishwanger, Midge Purse, Ifioma Anumanu, and Lynn Williams to round out 6 forward. So when we're looking at things by position here, I think one of the things right away that we're going to maybe take note is Kristen Edmonds, another one of those players that they targeted in free agency to try to bulk up their back line. The re-signings of Amanda Freeman, of a Taylor Smith, right? And Ifioma Anumanu, we talked about those 2 players specifically, but Smith saw a lot of time kind of in an attacking role during 2022. But for this preseason, currently listed as a defender. And she's someone who's not unfamiliar playing lower on the pitch and getting involved in the attack anyhow. But I think it's just sort of interesting to see they signed this player to a multi-year deal, and how are they going to utilize her moving forward?
In the preseason roster that Gotham put out, they did list Taylor Smith as a defender, but they put in parentheses next to her, also forward. Love the transparency, Gotham. I will call you New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC forever now. Love that transparency, because it's true. I mean, Taylor Smith is a really, really important player to this Gotham team last year. I think that's where we saw the biggest impact of a Smith, but playing higher up the pitch. I mean, she played a little bit wing back last year too under Menzies, but really crucial in the attacking part of the field. But you also look, they've got 9 defenders on their roster, so they don't really need Smith as a defender like at this point, especially because they got a couple other players thrown in there. I mean, Neely Martin coming over from Racing Louisville. Kelly O'Hara is going to be a big impact player. I mean, getting significant minutes, barring any injury from an O'Hara. That's what I expect to see kind of across this back line and how things roll out. Now, Gotham has played, as most teams, a couple of preseason friendlies already. They actually have one now, or like this morning, against Chicago Red Stars. So it closed door. They're hard to see, but Gotham Social does a great job of letting us know who's starting, who's playing, who's doing things. And Allie Long started in Gotham's first preseason match against Florida State. And Allie Long is a player that we did not see last year. New mom, Allie, gave birth to twins last year, and it's very exciting to see a player like Long not only return to the preseason roster, but get a start in their first preseason match. I think that is telling. As much as I haven't seen her play yet, haven't seen Long train yet, but I think that says a lot about where she is as a player and where Juan Carlos Amorós sees her as a position on this field. But you also look at this midfield. I think that the midfield is probably the strongest part of this team for Gotham right now, because you have someone like a Christy Mewis, a Victoria Pickett, a Yasmin Ryan, all 3 added players that either came with the team last year or are new this year getting into the mix. We saw time from Allie Long. There's also a McCall Zerboni who is on this team and has been in this midfield for a very long time. She re-signed with Gotham this year. It's looking pretty good. You've got a Kawasumi in the middle as well that can stretch and play a little bit higher. That's what excites me really about this Gotham team, and being under Juan Carlos Amorós, that we could see some player rotation and formation shifts. I'm not sure what we're going to see. I mean, with Hugh Menzies last year, we saw Ali Krieger in the 6 at the end of the year. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
I don't think we're going to see that again this year.
Yes, I do.
But I think we could see some differences up top and kind of how this team changes in their way to attack against opponents. This roster excites me. I'm not going to lie. It excites me.
Well, I mean, this is a team that built out this roster with a pretty exciting offseason. You know, we chatted a little bit about it in the first half of this episode. But I'm with you. Look, I think when you come off of a last place season like this team is coming off of, and you make the moves that you make, this is the honeymoon phase, right? It's like, this is the time where you're like, anything can happen. It literally is like, we can only go up from here, right? Because we're literally at the bottom at this point, coming off of that last place.
4 wins, only 4 wins last year for Gotham. If they get 5, it's better.
An improvement. Is that an improvement if they get 5 wins?
Yes.
And listening to you like sort of talk about some of these players across different lines. I mean, there's a lot of experience, right, across this roster that the team can pull from, whether it's in the goalkeeping position, defenders, midfield core, forwards, etc. You know, is this a team? I'm looking at this Gotham team though, and I'm wondering, is there room? Is there room on this team as it's currently constructed for a young player to come in and have an impact? Because they've got a couple young players on here that maybe we could take a look at and say, here's a young prospect to keep an eye on for Gotham. And I think we're going to both go with Jenna Neischwanger here.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to get to see her this year? And what kind of impact do you think we can see out of her?
So initially, when I think about all the players that were added to this roster in the offseason, all the moves they made, all the experience that this roster has, I would say no, we're not going to see a lot of the double draft picks, mainly Nightswanger. However, when you look at the front line for this roster, I imagine we'll see a Midge Purse get starts consistently, and Ifeoma Onumonu, a Lynn Williams get starts in the front line consistently. But then there's only 2 more forwards listed. You want to throw in Naomi Kawasumi into that front line as well, which I think would behoove you. So then there's 3 forwards that could come in off the bench or also play that role. And because of that, I think we could see a Jenna Nightswanger. It's also a World Cup year, which we will talk about and get into all the internationals. But I think that's when we'll see a Jenna Nightswanger, number 4 draft pick for Gotham, out of FSU, a really great prospect this year, not only for Gotham, but in the NWSL. This is a really big draft pick for them. And I do think that we will see her get time and get minutes in that front line. If not at the start of the season, definitely during the Challenge Cup, for sure. I mean, I think it would be a loss if we didn't get to see Jenna Nightswanger this year.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a player that we're going to see on opening weekend starting 11 for Gotham, but I'm with you 100% that in this type of year where we're in the middle of a cycle, the World Cup is going to happen. Gotham is one of many teams that is possibly going to miss an extended amount of players. That during those midweek matches that come up, in a Challenge Cup series, like maybe Nightwanger is someone that you slot in and give some time to. But we're going to have to wait and see, because going through this, again, we're looking at a lot of veteran type of players who have spent a lot of time in the league on Gotham's roster. So, I mean, who is that one veteran that they might pull from, that they might lean on a little bit more in 2023, especially in the midst of a World Cup year where they might miss a number of players on different international rosters? And there's many for us to look at here and many for us to choose and select from. But even some of the experienced veterans on this team are entering their first season with Gotham. So that's why we're going with Naomi Kawasumi, because this is, the Japanese international is someone who's been with this team for some time now and really started to, I think, kind of show that she was that experienced veteran that the team can kind of pull from in late stages of 2022. It's tough to have that consistent, like, it's not as bad as it seems type of mentality that we could keep building out of this and push forward. And I think Naomi Kawasumi was a pretty big part of that. I think we saw her coming off the bench, we saw her starting games, we saw her, impact, the games.
Massive, yeah.
Kind of like, I just am thinking of like some of these performances that she put in and the shifts that she gave to Gotham last year. And I just feel like this is going to be another season where they need that from her.
And this is definitely a veteran player in the global game of soccer in the NWSL. She spent a lot of time in Seattle, and she's been with this Gotham team since 2019. And I think that we've seen the maturity and evolution of Kawasumi's game over the last several years as she has really taken on that veteran role on this Gotham team in particular, right? Throughout stretches of last year, she would play higher up the pitch, and she became this very calming presence for Gotham. When they would be able to connect from their back lines to their forwards, connecting through the midfield, it was because of the glue that Kawasumi provided for this team. Now, I think they can build on that, right? Because she's been with this team, she can really bridge the gap between last year and the positive pieces that Gotham had in 2022 to the new pieces they're bringing in, whether it's an Herrera, a Lynn Williams up top, a Jenna Nightswanger, who's the draft pick coming in, to also an Allie Long, who didn't play at all last year in the midfield. I think Kawasumi is really going to be the player that everyone leans on, from Juan Carlos Amorós to the draftees in the locker room, because Kawasumi is that really, really calming presence that can dictate the tempo of a game and really control everything. And she hasn't been playing internationally for a bit, so they've got her all year. She's not going anywhere, which I think is a huge bonus for Juan Carlos Amorós and for this Gotham team and for Kawasumi. So she can really pick up consistency.
No, absolutely. I mean, we just covered this Japan's national team during the She Believes Cup, and there's a couple of veteran players who play in the NWSL who have not been with the national team for quite some time. And we've heard from Yuki Nagasato, and we've heard from Naomi Kawasumi about the lack of attention, support, promotion of their women's national team. Kawasumi was out there like live tweeting games because there was nothing around, no promotion on socials around the team and their performances. So I'm looking at that and sort of seeing that you take some of that energy into this regular season with the team. In a sense, people might not interpret that as being vocal, but I do. I think if you're, trying to utilize your platform to draw attention or bring awareness, I think that's a method. That's a way of being vocal. And I hope that she sort of carries that with this team in 2023. So I'm excited to see her be one of those experienced veterans that this team kind of rallies around and with, because we said she's probably still going to be here during this World Cup cycle. So there's no final rosters out there right now. It's still it's still open for interpretation. So for Gotham, they could really miss out anywhere from as low as probably like 3 players to potentially as high as 6 players. Let's take a look at some players who may be absent during the World Cup stretch. Bruinha has one with Brazil, Kelly O'Hara, Mitch Purse, Lynn Williams, and Christy Mewis with the United States women's national team, and Ifeoma Onumonu with Nigeria. These are all players who may not be available for Gotham during some pretty long stretches of time this season. And starting caliber players, in my opinion.
Definitely starting caliber. And again, there are definitely some locks on this list for their respective national teams, but there are also some that are maybe a little bit more up in the air. But either way, we wanted to add them to kind of showcase how many players could be missing, which does open the door for players like a Jenna Knightswanger to get more time. I also think it's going to be really important for Gotham, because of these international players we're spotlighting. I'm specifically looking at Lynn Williams, Christy Mewis, and Ifeoma Onumonu, those attacking-minded players, that they get off on a really fast, quick front foot with Gotham to start this year, because that'll also translate to their national teams, right? I mean, especially when you look at someone like Lynn Williams or Christy Mewis. I mean, Lynn Williams just getting back in the U.S. national team pool at this point. Vlatko Andonovski, U.S. head coach, is going to be watching these club games, and I think it'll only help a Williams and Mewis, Ifeoma Onumonu with Nigeria, to start fast, score a lot of goals. And I think that's the energy that Juan Carlos Amorós needs to give off for this Gotham team to start this season. While you have all these attacking players, use them as best as you can. I think someone like a Midge Purse might be on the bubble of going to the World Cup at this point. I mean, that's another conversation for another day, but we saw how that benefited Purse when she didn't get called in before. And I think that if anything were to happen, I mean, I think if she wants to go to the World Cup, right, I think that would be great for her. But if something happens that she doesn't, can she channel all that energy with her club team and with Gotham the same way that she did a few years ago in that same type of position? Because that's another reason why we highlight these players, even though they might not be going to the World Cup. If they don't make that roster, you have to keep watching them to see how they respond to that and how that changes, because, hey, they could get called back up at any single moment.
Yeah, we saw, Mitch Purse sort of elevate her play and her profile a bit with Gotham.
She's pissed off.
When she didn't go to the Olympics, she went on an incredible tear. And I mean, to the point where unfortunately she suffered an injury and she was out for a stretch of time with them in 2021. But a large part of why they made the playoffs was because of how they looked on the pitch with a Midge Purse.
Yep.
I think the stat was wild with how they were performing with her on the pitch versus when she wasn't on the pitch. And it's gonna be an interesting storyline to follow for this team in 2023, because they're kind of back in that scenario. Maybe this is a little bit of deja vu for some folks who follow Gotham, because this is they're back to where they were in 2021, and it's, can they get back to the playoffs? That is our biggest burning question for Gotham FC. They're going to be led by Juan Carlos Amorós, and under his time with Houston was able to break through and make a little bit of history of their own. They finally made the postseason after navigating a long regular season table, and they were able to say, hey, this is something that we checked off of our franchise list. We made it to an NWSL postseason. They unfortunately got bounced in the quarterfinals. So here we are with Gotham, and their best has also been a quarterfinals appearance. So can Gotham in 2023, with all of the moves that they have made in the offseason, make a return to the postseason? And where do we think they might fare at the end of 2023?
I think it's such a good question if they can get back to it. I mean, I think that they can get back to a playoff push. I do, with the players that they've acquired, with what I know about Juan Carlos Amorós and how he can unite a team. It's got to stay kosher essentially in the locker room, in the training room. That's what was lost last year with this team. When you lose the locker room, that's when it all crumbles and falls apart. If they can start on the right foot there, continue to go, I think this Gotham team will dig themselves out of the bottom three, push themselves up higher, be on the contention, be a bubble team pushing for playoffs at the end of the season. I see it for this Gotham side. I think what they did in the offseason, we gave them an A for a reason. They changed a lot. Now can that translate to this year? I think they'll be a bubble playoff team pushing for a playoff spot at the end of the year.
Okay, so you think maybe somewhere like in the low playoff seed? Do you think they're gonna potentially like host a lovely playoff game in the beautiful state of New Jersey?
Yeah, no, I don't think they'll be hosting in New Jersey, which is where they play. Harrison, New Jersey, same as the New York Red Bulls. These teams are actually in Jersey the whole time. No, I don't think they'll host. I don't think Gotham will be able to be a 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, but I could see them anywhere from 5 to 8 at that
Okay.
point. Maybe like a 6 to 9. I'll give them a bubble of a 6 to 9, pushing in for that last playoff spot at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do a full turnaround in a year. It is really hard.
Yeah.
I think this is giving them like a lot of props at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one thing to be a winner in an off season, and then it's another thing to be a winner in the regular season. But I'm with you. I like the moves that they made so much that I think, including from top to bottom, whether it's the head coach through the roster, that there's a possibility that they can go ahead and make a run. I think a lot of it is going to depend on how much this team buys into the head coach and the coaching staff's
Totally.
position and tactics. We literally saw how that was ultimately their demise in 2022. We just didn't really see the translation, between coaching staff and personnel on the pitch to the tactics to try to get them through a better position in 2022. So is that going to happen for this team in 2023? And I'm eager to see it because that's not only is that a tall ask in general, but that's a tall ask of veterans. That's a
Yeah,
tall ask
but
of
I
veterans
also
who've been playing in this league for a long time.
I agree. I agree completely. It is really hard to do that, but because there's so many new faces, it's not and veterans that are new coming into this, right? Like Lynn Williams
Yeah.
coming in as a veteran, Kelly O'Hara. I think because of those veterans, they're also coming into a new system where they don't know. Yes, they have the experience of a veteran, but it's not like they've been with the same club and now it's a new coach. How are they going to know we got to stick to our system? Like honestly, I think it could really work this year because there is newness across the board. It's starting a new chapter and a new page in that book. And when we do these projected finishes of 2023, you have to remember that Gotham is not inside a bubble. They're not competing against themselves every day. They're not competing against Florida State University every day. They're competing against other teams in the NWSL. And I know we've only previewed a couple of them so far, but you have to remember Portland Thorns and their roster, how much it really hasn't changed from last year, and Kansas City, what they've acquired. So yes, all of the work that Gotham has done has turned them around, but I still put them on the bubble of like a 6 to 8, 6 to 9 team at the end of the year.
I'm with you. No counter argument from me.